anemia in adolescents. Now, this issue not only impacts the health, but it basically has a long-term implication for maternal and national health outcomes. So when we talk about anemia, it continues to be a major health problem, a major concern, particularly in developing countries like India, where approximately, according to NFHS 5 data, nearly 59% of adolescent girls, that is around 64 million girls at any given point, are anemic. Now, adolescence, as we know, is basically a phase of opportunities, but also a period of vulnerabilities, which makes this issue highly relevant. So if you look at this slide, if we talk about child marriages, teenage pregnancy, early school dropouts, it basically increases the chances of adolescent anemia. Like if there's early pregnancy, there is increased iron demand, and that is a dual nutritional demand because the female would need it for herself and as well as for the fetus. So that increases the requirement of iron and folic acid and causes iron deficiency anemia. Poor nutritional status, socioeconomic factors also play a role here. Now, many of these adolescent girls are basically from low income or rural backgrounds where dietary quality intake is not good and it is limited. School dropout rates, if there is high school dropout rate, it means that these kids are not exposed to the role of health awareness and the anemia prevention programs which are run by the government. So all these factors basically increases the chances of adolescent anemia. Now, if you look at this slide, opportunity missed is an opportunity lost. So here we understand the value of adolescent period where we need to incorporate good nutrition in these kids. It is very important to have a good foundation. If you look at the third slide, if you need to have a good solid building, you need to have a good foundation. Similarly, this period where the period of adolescence when rapid growth, hormonal changes and increased years, you need good nutrition. Now, if the foundation is weak by any chance, it can lead to anemia with long-term consequences which may affect your reproductive health, cognitive ability and work capacity. The first picture here shows a very small plant, early growth but fragile. So the small plant with shallow roots symbolizes adolescent period with inadequate nutrition and anemia. They appear that they are growing, but they are very vulnerable, they are weak, and they are not strong. If you look at the second picture, this is a strong tree, a strong, nourished, and deep-rooted tree. That means this, if you look at this, that during the adolescent period, this female has received good iron, folic acid, good supplementation, good nutrition, and has received good proper care. That is why it's standing straight and it has healthy roots. Coming on to the objective of today's talk, I will be addressing that how do we identify the importance of anemia in adolescence and a revisit to basics. We will be discussing national initiatives that address the issue through comprehensive approach. And finally, a touch upon challenges associated with teenage pregnancy, which often overlap with adolescent anemia. Now, this is a world map which gives us the reality check. As we all know, anemia is one of the most persistent public healthcare problems. Looking at the sub-Saharan and South Asian countries, there is more than 40% of prevalence of anemia. We all know that anemia is a critical public health problem in India, which affects women not only during their childhood, but also later in life. Adolescence is a period of transformation. It is defined as an age group of 10 to 19 years and marks the onset of puberty, reproductive maturity, and more physical and cognitive growth. Let us now talk about the burden and the predictors. A CNNS data shows that it was a study done in over more than 35,000 adolescents, and India faces a double burden of undernutrition on one side and overnutrition on other side. Stunning thinness, overweight and obesity coexist, often influenced by socio-demographic factors. So our national nutrition programs like Poshan Abhiyan needs to prioritize these high-risk groups, older adolescents, females and low-income families. Why are we really concerned about anemia? Why are we talking about adolescent anemia here? Because anemia is just not about low hemoglobin. It has far-reaching consequences as it affects the growth, cognition, productivity, immunity, and reproductive health. It is basically an intergenerational cycle. So that means when an adolescent girl grows and who is anemic, she grows into a female who is anemic. She'll grow into a female who is an anemic mother. She will give birth to a low birth weight baby, and the cycle will just continue. Coming on to the causes of iron deficiency anemia and nutritional anemia, the most common cause is iron deficiency. Poor dietary intake, low bioavailability due to cereal-based diets, high in phytates, and low intake of vitamin C. Actually, deficiencies of folic acid, vitamin B12, and vitamin C also contribute here. The other non-nutritional causes are increased iron increased iron requirement during adolescence, hookworm infestation, infections like malaria, heavy menstrual bleeding, and early marriage or pregnancy. Now, if you look at this chart here, in this chart, we can easily see that there is a high requirement of anemia during the pregnancy. But even during the adolescent age, the requirement increases by 500 milligrams per deciliter. Adolescent anemia basically causes reduced physical development, which causes decreased work output, increased vulnerability to infection, and decreased work capacity. It causes impaired sexual and reproductive development, which causes irregular menstruation, low pre-pregnancy iron stores, low birth weight babies, and reduced cognitive development. That means diminished concentration, disturbance in perception, and poor learning ability. How do we diagnose anemia? If we talk about children and adolescent children particularly, hemoglobin less than 12 gram percent is defined as anemia. And in India, the highest prevalence of anemia is reported between the ages of 12 and 13, which also coincides with the average age of menarche. As per WHO, mild, moderate, severe anemia. Mild is 11.9 to 10, moderate is 9.9 to 7, less than 7 is severe. Anemia in non-pregnant is less than 12, and anemia in pregnant is less than 11. Signs and symptoms of anemia: patient will complain of feeling weak all the time, shortness of breath, increased susceptibility to infection, cold hand and feet, presence of pallor and pica. As I said before, that it is an intergenerational cycle. What next? So now it is the road to prevention. And where does this lead to? It leads to us, that we as healthcare providers need to take action by advising the patient to have a balanced diet and healthy living, having iron-rich food, cooking your food in iron utensils, and the role of government, where we have government initiatives. Evolution of iron supplementation: the first national nutritional anemia prophylaxis program was initiated in 1970, and the beneficiaries at that time were pregnant females, lactating women, and children under 12 years of age. If the hemoglobin was less than 12, daily supplementation of iron and folic acid was prescribed. This program further evolved into National Iron Plus Initiative in 2011 and further integrated into Anemia Mukt Bharat strategy to address various age groups with an extended set of interventions, which included deworming and fortified food. National Nutrition Anemia Control Program in 1991. The emphasis from prevention was basically taken further to management of anemia. This National Iron Plus Initiative program in 2011 basically used to provide weekly iron to adolescent, 100 milligram elemental iron and 500 micrograms of folic acid weekly throughout the year, or a daily supplement of giving 30 to 60 milligram of elemental iron daily for 3 consecutive months in a year. If the patient had mild anemia, they used to give 60 milligram of elemental daily iron for 3 months. Moderate, again 60 milligram of daily elemental iron. But if there was severe anemia, we used to refer the patient to district hospital or FRU. The major reason of poor compliance were basically the side effects associated with the iron folic acid composition, like gastric irritation, nausea, epigastric discomfort, and constipation. Now, if you look at the prevalence of anemia in India, from 2006 to 2016, there has been a drop of 2% and 1% of prevalence of anemia in adolescent girls and adolescent boys after the introduction of the programs. Supervised weekly administration of iron folic acid and biannual helminthic control are undertaken among all school-going adolescent girls and boys in 6th to 12th class enrolled in government-aided municipal schools and out-of-school adolescent girls. But nothing comes without any challenges. If you look at the challenges now, it's like a very crowded slide, but there are a lot of challenges which has been there. So number one is that the state does not accord anemia as a priority, as anemia is a hidden and a silent disease. It doesn't show up like measles or malaria. There is a little or no counseling to the beneficiaries or the caretaker about the benefits and the possible minor side effects. The state governments are still in the process of organizing the procurement and distribution of the supplements. Forecasting the use of iron folic acid is also an issue that the medical officers basically cannot forecast how much supply do they need. Transportation is another issue because they have to get the supplements from district warehouses, stores to level community health centers, sub-centers, schools. So that is also a major challenge. The weekly iron folic acid supplementation to 6 to 19 is relatively a newer program. So obviously the counseling has not been there to the healthcare workers. School teachers also feel very demotivated because they have not been counseled. There is poor intersectorial coordination and convergence. This program is basically test and treat strategy, screening for moderate and severe anemia, and referring to these cases to appropriate healthcare facilities is yet to be operationalized. So there is no supply, no counseling, and no motivation. Coming on to Anemia Mukt Bharat program, it is 6 into 6 into 6 strategies, 6 beneficiaries, 6 interventions, 6 institutional mechanisms. Approximately 450 million beneficiaries, nearly 50% of country's population will be reached. So when we talk about the beneficiaries, it includes children of 6 to 59 months, adolescent boys 15 to 19 years, adolescent girls 15 to 19 years, women of reproductive age, pregnant women and lactating women. Interventions means prophylactic iron folic acid supplementation, periodic deworming of children, adolescent, pregnant women, intensified year-round behavior change communication campaigns, solid body smart, delayed cord clamping, testing of anemia using digital methods and point-of-care treatment, mandatory provision of iron folic fortified food, addressing non-nutritional causes. 6 institutional mechanisms, that is intra-ministerial coordination, National Anemia Mukt Bharat Unit, National Center of Excellence and Advanced Research on Anemia Control, convergence with other ministries, strengthening the supply chain and logistics, Anemia Mukt Bharat dashboard and digital portal, which should be one-stop shop for anemia. One of the most important objective of Poshan Abhiyan launched in March 2018 was to design, it was basically designed to reduce the prevalence of anemia by 3% points per year among children, adolescent women in their reproductive age groups between the year 2018 and 2022. And target was to reduce stunting from 38.4% to 25% by 2022. Sustainable Developmental Goals or global goals are a collection of 17 interlinked global goals designed to be a blueprint to achieve better and more sustainable future for all. And the number 2 goal is end hunger, achieve food security, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture, which will definitely prevent anemia. Together, we all can work towards it and achieve what we want. A little bit about pregnant teenagers. At a glance, if you look at it, female under 20 years of age in 2017, an estimate of 18.8 million teenage pregnancies occurred in India. 7.9% of women aged between 15 to 19 years, and the prevalence was higher in rural area as compared to the urban area. The major causes for this was love and desire for a child, unintended no use of contraception, girl suppression, lack of school fees, need for dowry, forced marriages, low educational level, peer pressure, rape. So what did that lead to? That led to teenage pregnancy, which had put these young, poor females at a risk of health issues, economic, social, and financial issues. Also, these teenage mothers were likely to have health problems, including hypertension, premature labor, low birth weight babies, higher neonatal mortality, and also led to postpartum depression, anxiety, lack of breastfeeding initiative, and eventually stress. So it's not a joke. You should always think twice that this poor girl is not a doll, but she is a kid. Indian laws and regulation, if you talk about the POXO Act, what a clinician should know. Any sexual activity with a child below 18 years, whether a boy or a girl, is a crime. Law says that any sexual contact, fingering, oral sex will also fall under this definition. So teenage pregnancy under the age of 18 years is a criminal offense and need to be reported to the police. But the Child Marriage Restraint Act has given right to consent post 16 years to women. So this 2-year discrepancy raises another milieu of problems. Married minor girls who get pregnant and also has a legal right to consent because she is over 16 and she cannot get aborted without the permission of a legal guardian. So there is a long way ahead. To conclude, we should have increased awareness, Healthy, balanced, nutritious diet, good iron and folic acid supplementation, better nutrition, good hygienic practices. As we all know, prevention is better than cure. Be a kid, don't have one. Adolescent period is a very precious period. Thank you.